Winners aren't born, they're built. Every single day, in every decision, you're either moving closer to winning or choosing to stay average. The world doesn't care about excuses. It only respects results. If you want to be a winner, then stop waiting, stop crying, and start dominating. People always talk about motivation like it's the magic key to success. They think winners wake up every morning fired up, excited, ready to take on the world. That's a lie. Motivation is temporary, it's unreliable. It's a fleeting emotion that comes and goes. If you build your life around motivation, you'll always fail, because the second you don't feel like doing something, you'll find an excuse to quit. The real difference between those who win and those who lose is discipline. Discipline is doing what you said you'd do long after the feeling you had when you made that promise has disappeared. You think I always felt like training. You think I always woke up ready to fight, ready to go to the gym, ready to push myself to the edge. No, most days I didn't want to. I was tired, I was broke, I was frustrated with life, but I made a choice. I decided that my emotions didn't matter, my excuses didn't matter, only the result mattered. That's what discipline is. It's the ability to silence the voice in your head that says, rest a little longer, eat that junk food, skip the work today. Discipline is answering back and saying, shut up. I said I'll do it, so I'll do it. When I was younger, I didn't come from money, I didn't come from comfort. I saw my father struggle, I saw my family struggle. And there were countless moments when life gave me the perfect excuse to give up. There were times when the heating didn't work, when there wasn't enough food, when I had to choose between paying for training or paying for other things. If I relied on motivation back then, I'd have stopped, but I had discipline. I understood that every time I skipped, every time I gave in, I was killing the future version of myself, so I forced myself forward, no matter how I felt. Discipline is the foundation of everything. If you want to build a body, you need discipline. If you want to make money, you need discipline. If you want to succeed in anything, you need discipline, because motivation is emotional, but discipline is logical. It doesn't ask you how you feel, it tells you what must be done. That's why I say discipline is freedom. People think freedom is doing whatever you want, whenever you want. That's not freedom, that's weakness. True freedom is knowing you have full control over yourself, that nothing, not even your own emotions, can stop you from doing what must be done. I remember training for fights in the freezing cold. My body hurt, I was exhausted, my mind was screaming to quit. I could have stayed home, I could have said, I don't feel like it today. But that would have been weakness, and every time I forced myself through that pain, I came out stronger, not just physically, but mentally. Because discipline trains the mind more than it trains the body. When you train discipline, you learn that discomfort won't kill you, that fatigue won't kill you, that hunger won't kill you. What kills you is quitting. People ask me, how do I stay motivated? I tell them, stop trying to stay motivated. Motivation is for the weak. Discipline is for the strong. The man who is disciplined doesn't need to feel good to perform. He doesn't need to wait for the perfect time. He doesn't need inspiration. He just acts. He gets up and does what must be done, day after day, no matter what. That's the man who wins. You have to make yourself immune to your emotions. There will be days you feel tired, days you feel broken, days you feel like nothing is working. But that's when discipline saves you. That's when discipline pushes you forward while everyone else stops. And the funny thing is, the more disciplined you are, the less you care about how you feel. It becomes automatic. You wake up, you execute, that's it. No debate, no negotiation, no excuses. I had nights where I was broke, sitting in a small room, wondering if I'd ever make it. Motivation didn't get me out of that hole. Discipline did. Waking up early, grinding when nobody was watching, training when nobody cared, working when I could have been relaxing. That's what changed my life. And when success came, people called me lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. It was discipline, pure and simple. So understand this, motivation is for the moments, discipline is for life. The man who relies on motivation will always fall short because his emotions control him. The man who builds discipline cannot be stopped because he controls himself. That is the difference between winners and losers. And I'll leave you with this. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Stop waiting for the perfect time. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is discipline, because discipline will build you into a winner. Struggle is the most important ingredient to becoming a winner, yet it's the one thing everyone runs away from. People want success, they want money, they want respect, but they want it without pain. They want comfort, they want ease, they want a smooth ride. Let me tell you the truth. If your life is easy, you're losing. Every man who has ever won in life has been through suffering, and not just a little suffering, but suffering that broke him to the core. Struggle is not your enemy. It's your greatest teacher, your sharpest weapon, the fire that forges you into someone unbreakable. I know because I've lived it. When I was broke, I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have safety nets. I didn't have someone handing me opportunities. I had stress, I had pressure, I had nights where I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, asking myself how the hell I was going to make it. I had moments where I had to fight with nothing left in me, moments where I wanted to quit but had no choice but to keep moving. That suffering, that struggle, that pain, it built me into who I am. Without it, I'd still be average, still be weak, still be like everybody else who dreams but never wins. Most of you think struggle is a sign you're failing. It's not. Struggle is the proof you're on the right path. If you're not struggling, it means you're not pushing yourself far enough. The mountain is steep, and if you're not feeling the burn in your legs, you're not climbing high enough. I remember training for fights, pushing my body beyond exhaustion, feeling like my lungs were going to burst, feeling like my arms couldn't lift anymore. That pain was brutal, but every drop of sweat, every bruise, every cut, it all meant I was getting sharper, stronger, harder to beat. The struggle was the price of becoming a champion, and it was a price I was willing to pay. I've seen men who wanted success but couldn't handle struggle. The first obstacle hit them, and they folded. They didn't realize that the struggle was the test. Life doesn't hand you greatness, it asks, how badly do you want it? Are you willing to bleed for it? Are you willing to lose sleep, to suffer humiliation, to push through exhaustion? Winners say yes. Losers say it's too hard. And that's the difference. I'll tell you another truth. Struggle reveals who you are. When everything is comfortable, anyone can smile, anyone can talk about success, anyone can act confident. But when the bills are stacking up, when your body is aching, when the world is against you, that's when the real you comes out. Do you break or do you rise? Do you cry and wait for someone to save you, or do you dig deep and save yourself? I've had times when I didn't know where my next dollar was coming from. I've had times where my dreams looked impossible. I've had people laugh at me, doubt me, write me off. Those were the hardest moments of my life, but those were also the moments that built me. Because I chose to embrace the struggle instead of running from it. And here's the thing, you'll never truly appreciate winning if you haven't suffered. The reason victory tastes so sweet is because of the pain you went through to get there. If success came easy, you wouldn't value it, you wouldn't fight to keep it, you wouldn't respect yourself for earning it. The struggle gives meaning to the success. The darker the nights, the brighter the mornings feel when you rise above them. So when you're going through hard times, when life feels heavy, when everything is falling apart, don't run, don't hide, lean into it. Smile at the pain, say to yourself, this is the part of the process. This is where most people quit, but not me. Because every ounce of struggle is shaping you, forging you, preparing you for the battles ahead. Struggle is the gym where your character is trained, where your mind is hardened, where your spirit is sharpened. Most people want shortcuts. They look for the easiest path, the fastest route. But the truth is, the shortcut always leads to weakness. Struggle is the long road, the brutal road, the road filled with pain. But it's also the road that makes you a man worth remembering. I didn't get here through comfort. I didn't get here by avoiding difficulty. I got here by walking straight into the storm, by choosing the hard road again and again until the hard road became my normal. That's why when obstacles come now, I don't fear them. I expect them, I welcome them, I crush them. So don't run from struggle, don't complain about the pain, don't wish it was easier. You should be grateful for it, because struggle is the gatekeeper to every level of greatness. It is the filter that separates the weak from the strong, the average from the extraordinary, the losers from the winners. And if you're sitting there, going through hell, drowning in problems, feeling like you can't take another step, good. That's exactly where you need to be, because that's the moment that defines you. And if you refuse to quit, if you embrace that struggle and keep pushing, one day you'll look back and realize that was the moment you became unstoppable. Excuses are the language of the weak. They are the comfort blanket of the average man, the reason he tells himself to justify why he's still broke, why he's still fat, why he's still stuck exactly where he's been for years. Everyone has an excuse ready. They say, I can't because I don't have time, I can't because I don't have money, I can't because I wasn't born rich, I can't because people don't believe in me. Excuses sound smart, they sound reasonable, but they're nothing more than lies you tell yourself so you can stay comfortable doing nothing. Winners don't speak the language of excuses. They speak the language of results. When I was younger, I had every excuse in the world to give up. I wasn't born into money. I didn't have a safety net. There were days where I didn't know how I was going to pay rent, where I had nothing to fall back on. I could have told myself, life isn't fair, other people have it easier, that's why I can't win. But I knew deep down that excuses don't change reality. Nobody's going to care about your sad story. Nobody's going to reward you for explaining why you failed. The world doesn't pay you for your excuses, it pays you for your results, and I had to decide. Either I focus on why I can't, or I fight to prove why I can. I remember training for fights when I was broke, exhausted, and stressed out of my mind. There were times I hadn't eaten properly, times I felt weak, times when the pressure was crushing me. It would have been so easy to say, I can't train today, I don't have the energy, I don't have the resources, but that excuse would have been useless when I stepped into the ring. The opponent across from me didn't care if I was hungry, tired, or broke. He was there to win, and my excuses weren't going to protect me from his punches. That's when I realized excuses don't stop the punches life throws at you. Excuses don't shield you from reality. They just make you weaker while reality keeps coming, and this applies to everything in life. People cry that the economy is bad, that their parents didn't support them, that society is unfair. Of course it's unfair. Life is unfair. It has always been unfair. Winners don't sit there complaining about it. Winners adapt. They take the unfairness and turn it into fuel. When I looked at my own life, I knew I wasn't given the perfect hand. But I also knew that excuses wouldn't feed me, wouldn't make me strong, wouldn't give me the life I wanted. I had to work, no matter what. And the moment I cut off the excuses, everything changed. Excuses are dangerous because they sound so logical in the moment. They trick you into thinking you're being smart by waiting, by resting, by not trying. But really, they're stealing your future. Every excuse you make is a brick in the prison you're building around yourself. And the more excuses you stack up, the harder it becomes to break free. I knew if I let even one excuse win, I'd open the door to more. I can't train today becomes I can't train this week. I can't afford this becomes I'll never afford anything. Excuses multiply, and before you know it, you've convinced yourself you'll never win. That's why I never allowed myself the luxury of excuses. When I was broke, I didn't say, I can't make money because I don't have any money to start with. I said, I'll figure it out. When I was tired, I didn't say, I can't work because I need rest. I said, I'll rest after I win. When life knocked me down, I didn't say, I can't get up because it's unfair. I said, life's unfair, good. Then I'll be the one who rises anyway. That mindset, that refusal to give in to excuses, is what built me. Most men waste years explaining why they can't succeed, instead of using those years proving that they can. They think people care about their story. Let me tell you something. Nobody cares. The world doesn't care how tired you are, how stressed you are, how unlucky you are. All it cares about is whether you win or you lose. If you win, everyone calls you strong, smart, disciplined. If you lose, nobody wants to hear your excuses. That's the harsh reality, but it's also the liberating truth. Because once you understand that excuses don't matter, you realize nothing is holding you back except yourself. I built my life by refusing to accept excuses. I refuse to let circumstances dictate my future, and you can do the same, but only if you cut out the excuses. Stop blaming your past. Stop blaming the system. Stop blaming anyone else. The moment you kill excuses is the moment you take full control of your life, because then winning or losing is entirely on you, and that's power. So if you're sitting there right now with a list of reasons why you can't, throw it away. Burn it, destroy it, because that list is the chain around your neck. Winners don't need reasons, they need results, and remember this: excuses don't pay, results do. The biggest battle you will ever fight isn't in the gym, it isn't in the ring, it isn't in business, it's in your own head. Your mind is the most dangerous weapon you have, but it can also be the biggest enemy holding you back. If you don't control your thoughts will control you. And if your thoughts control you, you'll never achieve anything. Most men lose before they even start because their mind is weak. They convince themselves they can't do it. They convince themselves they're tired, that they need a break, that they're not ready. They fill their own heads with doubt and negativity until they've already quit without even trying. That's the power of the mind. It can destroy you, or it can turn you into something unstoppable. The choice is yours. When I was broke, when I was at rock bottom, when I was living in a small flat with nothing, my biggest fight wasn't with the outside world. It wasn't with my environment, or my lack of money, or the obstacles in front of me. My biggest fight was with myself. Every day I woke up with thoughts telling me I couldn't do it, thoughts telling me I was stuck. Thoughts telling me I wasn't good enough, that success was for other people, not me. If I had listened to those voices, I'd still be there, broke, hopeless, stuck in the same cycle. But I refused. I refused to be a slave to my own thoughts. I started programming my mind like a weapon. Every time a negative thought came, I attacked it. When my mind said, "You're too tired," I answered, "Good, let's keep going." When my mind said, "You can't," I answered, "Watch me." When my mind said, "Stop," I said, "I don't stop." I trained my mind the same way I trained my body, with discipline, with consistency, with repetition. Over time, I became immune to weakness in my own head. I learned to think only in terms of strength, progress, and victory. Most people don't understand how powerful their thoughts are. They allow themselves to entertain weakness. They wake up and say, "I don't feel like working today." They look in the mirror and say, "I'll never be fit." They try something once and say, "It's too hard." And every time they think like that, they're programming their brain to accept failure. Your mind is like a computer. It runs on the code you feed it. If you feed it weakness, it produces weakness. If you feed it strength, it produces strength. When I was preparing for fights, there were countless times my body was finished, drained, broken, but I refused to let my mind break. I told myself over and over that I was built for this, that pain is temporary, that quitting is forever. And that mental control is what allowed me to keep moving when others stopped. It wasn't about muscles or stamina. It was about refusing to lose the mental war. Because if you control your mind, your body has no choice but to follow. The same applies to everything in life. Business, money, relationships, success, it all starts in your head. If your thoughts are scattered, weak, undisciplined, you'll never build anything solid. But if your mind is sharp, focused, relentless, you can take on anything. People think success is about luck or talent. No, success is about control. Control of your time, control of your actions, but above all, control of your mind. I remember nights sitting alone, questioning everything, wondering if I was wasting my time, wondering if I was delusional for thinking I could break out of the life I was born into. And in those moments, the only thing that kept me moving was mental control. I didn't allow my mind to drown me in doubt. I forced it to stay focused on the vision, on the goal, on the result I wanted. Even when reality looked hopeless, I made sure my mind didn't reflect hopelessness. My mind stayed locked on winning, and eventually reality had no choice but to catch up. Most of you right now are prisoners of your own thoughts. You let fear, doubt, and weakness dictate your actions. And until you break free from that mental prison, you will never win. The good news is you have the power to control it. It's not easy, it's not instant, but it's possible. It starts with catching yourself in the moment. Every time your mind feeds you weakness, reject it. Every time your mind tells you to stop, override it. Every time your mind doubts you, fight back, over and over again, until your mind finally bends to your will. Control your mind, and you can control your world. Lose control of your mind, and the world will control you. That's the truth. So if you want to be a winner, stop letting your thoughts run wild. Stop entertaining doubt. Stop allowing weakness a place in your head. Train your mind like you train your body. Discipline it, sharpen it, weaponize it. Because once you have control over your mind, there is nothing and no one that can stop you. And that's the real victory. Hard work is the great equalizer. You can't control where you were born. You can't control who your parents are. You can't control whether life gave you a head start or left you with nothing. But what you can control is how much work you put in compared to everyone else. That's the one area where you decide whether you're going to be a winner or a loser. The truth is, most people don't lose because they're stupid or because they lack opportunity. They lose because they're lazy. They're outworked, plain and simple. When I was coming up, I saw men with more money than me, better connections, easier lives. I could have sat there and cried about it, used it as an excuse, said life was unfair. But I didn't. I made a decision that no matter what advantages they had, they would never outwork me. They could have the money, they could have the safety nets, but they were never going to have my grind. I was going to put in more hours, more effort, more sacrifice than anybody else, and that's exactly why I won. You can't cheat work. People try. They look for hacks, shortcuts, tricks, some secret method to success. They think maybe there's a way to get rich without grinding, a way to get strong without training, a way to win without sacrifice. There isn't. The only real secret is putting in more work than the guy next to you and doing it for longer. That's it. And most people can't do it because they don't have the stomach for it. They'll put in a little effort, but when it gets uncomfortable, when it gets boring, when it gets painful, they stop. That's why they lose. When I was broke, I didn't have the luxury of stopping. I'd be up late at night, my mind racing, trying to figure out how to escape the life I was in. I didn't have time to relax, to waste hours doing nothing. Every minute was survival. Every hour had to be used to move me forward. While other people were watching TV, I was working. While other people were scrolling through their phones, I was grinding. While other people were wasting weekends, I was stacking every bit of progress I could. That's what outworking everyone looks like. Not just doing more, but refusing to do less ever. Even in fighting, I knew I wasn't always the most naturally gifted guy in the room. There were fighters faster than me, stronger than me, even more technical than me. But I also knew one thing: when they were tired and wanted to stop, I was still going. When they skipped a session, I didn't. When they rested, I pushed harder. And in the end, when we stepped in the ring, all those extra hours, all that extra grind showed up. I beat men who were better than me on paper, simply because I had outworked them in reality. That's the power of relentless effort. Most people have no idea how much harder they could actually work. They think they're putting in effort, but they're nowhere near their limit. They quit at 40%, maybe 60%. They stop when they feel tired instead of when the work is done. I learned to push past that barrier. I learned that exhaustion is not the end, it's the beginning of growth. When you think you can't do any more, that's the exact moment you find out how much you're truly capable of. But you'll never discover that if you quit early like everybody else. The reason I am where I am today isn't because I had some magical talent. It's because I made myself impossible to outwork. I kept showing up. I kept grinding. I kept stacking wins 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, until the results were undeniable. And when people finally looked at me and said, "You're lucky," or "You're talented," I laughed. Because what they called luck was me working when they were sleeping, and what they called talent was me refusing to stop when they already had. That's the mentality you need. Stop looking sideways at what everyone else has. Stop comparing yourself to people with advantages you don't control. Focus on the one thing you do control, your work ethic, and then make sure nobody can ever outwork you. You should take pride in it. You should be able to say, "I might not have the same start, but I'll outlast you, I'll outgrind you, I'll outfight you, I'll keep going long after you've quit." That's what creates winners, and don't fool yourself into thinking there's another way. There isn't. If you want to be successful, if you want to be respected, if you want to build a life worth remembering, you must outwork everyone. No excuses, no shortcuts, no half effort. Just relentless, consistent, brutal work that nobody else is willing to do. Because in the end, results don't lie, and the man who outworks everyone else is always the man who wins. The most dangerous thing a man can do after he's won a little is to sit back and say, "That's enough." Comfort is the killer of ambition. The second you start settling, the second you start getting satisfied, you've already started to lose. I've seen countless men build a little muscle, make a little money, get a little recognition, and then stop pushing. They think they've arrived, they stop grinding, they stop improving, they stop fighting, and then they wonder why they fall back down, why they lose everything they worked for. It's simple, because they settled. Winning isn't a destination. It's not something you reach once and then retire. Winning is a constant war, a never-ending process of raising the bar higher and higher. The moment you stop climbing, the moment you get comfortable, someone hungrier than you, someone more disciplined than you, someone who refuses to settle will take your spot. That's how the world works. When I started to make real money, I could have said, finally, I've made it. I could have relaxed, bought a nice car, lived in comfort and coasted, and believe me, the temptation was there. After years of grinding with nothing, after years of struggle, the idea of settling down, taking it easy, living soft at whispers in your ear. But I knew the moment I listened to that voice, I'd lose everything. Because comfort makes you weak, and weakness destroys winners. Even when I became a champion, even when I'd beaten men in the ring, I didn't stop. Because I knew that victory today meant nothing tomorrow. Nobody cares what you did last week. Nobody respects a man living off past glory. You either keep winning or you fade away, and I wasn't going to fade. That's why I never let myself settle. I kept training, kept pushing, kept demanding more from myself. Because I wasn't competing against the man I was fighting. I was competing against myself, and myself wasn't good enough yet. Settling is what average people do. They work a job they hate, earn just enough to survive, and then convince themselves it's fine because at least it pays the bills. They build a body that looks a little better than before, and then stop training because it's good enough. They get a little recognition, and then stop grinding because I've done enough. That's how mediocrity wins. The truth is, if you settle for good enough, you'll never reach great. I remember nights after big wins, after fights, after milestones in business, where I'd sit alone and think, what's next? Most people celebrate and stop. I celebrated for a moment, but then I went straight back into the grind, because deep down I knew that if I stood still, I was finished. The world is moving forward every second. If you don't keep up, if you don't keep climbing, you're falling behind, whether you realize it or not. And here's the reality, there is no finish line. There's no moment where you finally relax forever, no point where you say, I'm done. Because the second you say you're done, you lose your edge, your discipline, your fire. That's why I live with the mentality that there's always another level. No matter how much I achieve, no matter what I build, I tell myself it isn't enough. Not because I'm ungrateful, but because I know the game never ends. There's always more weight to lift, more money to make, more mountains to climb, more people to prove wrong. I've seen what happens when men settle. They rot. They lose their hunger, they lose their drive, they lose themselves. And soon enough, the same men who once had potential are forgotten. They become stories of what could have been. I refuse to be one of them. I refuse to look back one day and know I could have done more but chose comfort instead. And that's what you need to understand. Never settle. Don't settle for average when you can be great. Don't settle for good enough when you can dominate. Don't settle for where you are, no matter how far you've come. Because the truth is, you're capable of more. You always are. Settling is a lie you tell yourself to justify being weak. Winners don't settle, ever. They keep pushing, keep climbing, keep chasing the next level until the day they die. So don't make the mistake of thinking you've arrived. Don't fall for the trap of comfort. Don't let yourself get soft. Keep fighting, keep building, keep demanding more of yourself every single day. Because the man who never settles is the man who keeps winning. And that's exactly who you need to be. At the end of the day, you can make excuses, you can settle, you can stay weak, or you can rise, fight, and take what you know is yours. The choice is simple. Remain a nobody or be a winner. Decide.